Most of Book 4 seems to cover Egypt, although it's only a guess based on an assumption that the first 6 books were labeled correctly Egyptian texts. However, Chapter 12 seemed different. It is part of the Rules of Record. Chapter 9 through 11 cover Disgaea. This one makes me wonder if it's possible this was placed in Egyptian texts, but belongs in the Celtic half. This is assuming that the whole thing is ancient. That will never be proved. Clearly, though, either this chapter is placed wrong by the editors, or maybe the whole Book 4, Sons of Fire, is Celtic and not Egyptian. Kolbrin Bible, Book 4, Sons of Fire, Chapter 12. The Rules of Record, 6. SOF 12:1. Before we left Dredesh, they brought living sheep and goats and hung them upon a tree standing in the place of assembly. Birds of bright colors and things of worked gold and silver were hung upon the branches. Perfumes and oils with garments. They danced about the tree, and hewn wood was brought and laid against it. 3 maidens came, and it was lit and burnt as an offering to success. SOF 12:3. We drew off, for they were foreign to us, but others came behind, and we were taken in among them and brought before Albanic, the leader of armed men. They pushed around about us, and some cried out for blood. They wished to take our ships and possessions, but the leader said, "Leave the deed until the morning, for if blood flows now, it will not cease with the foreigners." SOF 12:6. Of the warriors who came with us, there were a score of men from Elapinos. They wore helmets of bronze with plumes of scarlet and purple. Their shields were bronze burnished so that they shone like the sun and were edged with a band of hardened metal. In length they were 2.5 cubits, and the width 1.5 cubits. They had spears of unknotted wood 6 cubits in length, with blades of hard metal set in sockets. SOF 12:7. Their swords were pure hard metal worked in a strange way, and in length 1.5 cubits, and in width 3 fingers' breadth. They were horn-handled and bound about with wire of copper and silver. Some among them were armed with war javelins and darts. They had a curious dart that turned over itself in flight, and another that struck in from the side. SOF 12:8. In battle they stood there in 3 to withstand the rush of the enemy, but they were weak in attack, for they moved heavily. With them were slaves and 60 attendants, who were plunderers of the battlefield, pillagers of the land, the cooks, the baggage keepers, and the carriers of burdens. The warriors were the battle craftsmen. SOF 12:10. The daughter of Laban, the armorer, had hidden herself in the opening behind the flame and spoke to them in a strange tongue. They heard her voice and thought it came from a shadow god. She told them of the land of her mother, called Belheria, and bid them find their way there. She told them to take the Bethedin with them, for they brought good fortune and were beloved by the gods. The leaders went out from the temple, believing they had been granted a vision. SOF 12:11. We sailed with a large company towards the west, and had nothing to fear, except the whirlpool. For the red men with us knew the way of the waters. For long days we saw only the sea, and the land sighting birds all came back. SOF 12:12. We went out through the mouth of the sea into the sea of the great river, past the lands of white copper to the place of painted men, where we drew up the ships and staked them. SOF 12:13. Among the fighting men were some from Sparcia, whose leader was Corin, called the Axeman, but whom we named the Cunning One. These went out into the forest to hunt, and the king of that place sent men to take them. But they refused to go, and there was a loud dispute. SOF 12:15. The ships were divided, and those who wished to set up the Eagle and Serpent went to the harbor of giants in Belheria. The same giants are builders of great temples, and they are 6 cubits tall. SOF 12:17. We came to a bay, and on one side of which was a forest, and on the other a plain, where herds grazed. For the men of that place it was the time of the feast of fires, and they held games upon the shores and ran races in cleared land behind. At this time they would not fight, so we met them in peace. They wore garments woven in two parts and belted with hide. They had caps of skin or leather, and the tunic which hung about them was darkly colored in blue, green, and brown. They enclosed their legs and feet in dressed skins, bound in front with thongs. They had many ornaments of copper, but little gold or silver. Though their armbands and brooches shone like silver, they had the art of making copper like silver or gold. SOF 1218. These people hold a great feast before the beginning of the heat, when their god Mago appears. Inside the god were the spirits of men, whom the god had eaten, and their voices could be heard calling for deliverance from darkness. Because of the feast, these people demanded the giantess, and she was given over to them for the days of feasting. SOF 1219. We did not know the ways of these people, and when we saw that they wished us to drink blood, we drew apart from them. The headman sent a messenger to us, and Corinne and the giantess wrestled together, but the giantess was the stronger, so Corinne lured her towards the cliff edge. Corinne taunted her and laughed at her clumsiness, and then at the break of the cliff he tricked her, so that she rushed forward. As she passed beside him, he turned behind her and pushed so that she fell over the cliff edge onto a large black rock below. Her back was broken. The same black rock was later split and taken up to be worshipped. SOF 1220. In the place to which we came, the deathless stars ride high. The adze rests on the morning, and the watchman at the gate of the sky sits at the eastern tiller in the evening. The Valken is rarely seen clearly. This is the land of Dada. This is all subjective, of course. I'm not pushing any one ideal or another. It's just an ideal that I had from reading the book. And I do fully understand that in reality, there will never be a way to prove that this is actually an ancient text, nor do I think that it needs to be proven that way. It doesn't really matter. I don't think that it requires a pedigree for the words to have meaning. I just happen to like a lot of the things, and I like what-if scenarios. This is a what-if scenario, and I share it.